Hello guys and welcome to my SN11 flight analysis. We'll try to look deeply into the flight itself and also into an explosion that occurred during the landing. But without further ado, roll the intro. Probably no one was expecting just how crazy this launch will be. On Monday we've had a flight opportunity, but unfortunately it was scrapped because the FAA inspector wasn't able to get to Boca Chica on time. It turns out that it probably was SpaceX's fault because they've messed up the road closure dates, which caused the inspector to go home back to Florida just to find out that he has to go back again to Boca Chica. On Tuesday, Elon tweeted that they are targeting 8 AM Texas time for the SN11 liftoff. As we know, Elon always gives really optimistic dates, so we didn't exactly believe him that they could fly so early, but turns out that we were wrong and Elon was right this time, and the liftoff indeed happened a few minutes before 8 AM. As we can see, the visibility that day wasn't too good. It was really foggy. You could just about make out the shape of Starship in the fog. John Insprucker, a SpaceX engineer, told us that it was a deliberate action to test out the prototype in a terrible weather condition, which kinda turned out to be fatal, but we'll talk about it later. About 8 AM, all three Raptors were ignited and SpaceX almost immediately switched to a camera located under the skirt. We've never seen this perspective before. You will later see a different camera with a different angle on the opposite side of the Starship. What's interesting is that from the first seconds of the flight we can already see that something was wrong. On the left you can see a Raptor serial number 52 and unfortunately it was on fire. But in theory SpaceX could ascend and land without one Raptor, no problem. About 30 seconds after liftoff, we have been shown something really interesting. An inside view of the methane tank. In the center you can see the top portion of the CH4 header tank, and on the right there is a downcomer pipe that is connected to the LOX header tank located in the nose cone. 10 seconds later, Starship was at an altitude of about 1 kilometer. There was a little bit of fuel rich, which means that in the fuel to oxidizer ratio there is a little bit too much methane. Previous Starships had the same issue and it didn't look like it affected their performance. The contrail left by the prototype is a mixture of a few things. First of all, there is all the debris picked up on the liftoff. There is also the sun shining at the debris, which gives them the more yellowish color. And finally, Raptor combustion isn't 100% ideal, which means that there occur all types of different debris that can create the contrail. On T+2 minutes and 15 seconds, we've had a planned engine shutdown. This was intentional and the purpose of this maneuver was to reduce Starship thrust. As we know, during the flight with each kilometer, the Starship is becoming less and less heavy, which means that it needs less thrust to get to the planned apogee of 10 kilometers. 3 minutes after liftoff, SN11 was at an altitude of over 8 kilometers. A few seconds later, we've unfortunately lost the video feed, but because the flight profile was really similar to previous prototypes, we knew that the second engine cutoff was about 15 seconds later. Here, unfortunately we didn't have a video confirmation, but on T+3 minutes and 56 seconds, the SN11 was at its apogee of about 10 kilometers. At 4:20, the last engine has been shut down and the belly flop maneuver began. 20 seconds later, the video feed partially came back. At 4 minutes and 52 seconds into the flight, the ship was at about 6 kilometers altitude. 40 seconds later it was at 2 kilometers, and another 10 seconds later it was at only 1 kilometer. 5 minutes and 48 seconds after liftoff, one of the engines has been relighted and, well, we still don't really know what happened next. The video feed was lost, the telemetry data stopped coming, and the only thing left was the weird sounds from the ground camera. At first, we thought that it successfully landed, but later it turned out that the reality was way worse than we thought. Before we continue, I want to ask you to subscribe to my channel. Your support allows me to do what I love, which is creating those Starship updates for you. I'm very grateful for every single subscriber. You can also check out our Discord server and Facebook page to receive instant Starship updates. Anyways, back to the video. Here, SpaceX live feed ended. Fortunately, there is a lot of tank watchers in Boca Chica with a big arsenal of cameras that will help us figure out what exactly have happened. First, let's take a look at the NASA spaceflight perspective. Please don't copy strike my channel for this short clip. Here we saw a bright flash and what happened next was incredible. A literal Starship rain. Pieces were flying everywhere. It sounded like a multiple bombs set off next to each other. On the plus side, it looks like at least one of the Starship legs deployed correctly this time. Next, we have a video from Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, where we can also see Starship pieces falling everywhere. One almost hit the camera, but we'll come back to this later. Okay, there was a ton of debris and stuff, but what caused the SN11 explosion? It was supposed to work perfectly this time. Well, that was the plan, but you already know what has failed. Let's say this together. Raptor engines. Elon was surprisingly active after this mishap on his Twitter account. He told us a few interesting things. Firstly, in one of his tweets he mentioned that the mass production is a key to eliminate the errors, which tells us again that the Raptors themselves were the problem. Engine number 52 hasn't reached the expected chamber pressure and then something significant happened, but we're not sure what. Elon will hopefully tell us the exact reason after the investigation ends, but we have two theories. The first one is that during the landing maneuver, one or two Raptors haven't ignited at all, plus the damaged Raptor caused an explosion inside the tanks. This theory is supported by RGB photos where we can see that the nose cone is really close to the landing pad and the rest of the debris was scattered on the other side of the road. But I tend to believe the second theory, that there indeed was a problem with Raptor ignition which caused the landing flip to fail, and the auto FTS decided that it's best to detonate itself before Starship will crash into the tank farm. Flight termination system is basically a couple of explosives attached to a rocket in case something goes terribly wrong, and it's safer to just detonate the rocket. When the fog settled down, Mauricio from RGV Aerial Photography rented a Cessna and did a flight over Boca Chica. I can't show you all of the images, but if you are really curious, then you can support him on Patreon to gain access to the whole gallery. The one thing is certain, Starship wasn't able to target for the landing pad at all. Except a few pieces, it's almost undamaged, so I'm not sure why Elon said in one of his tweets that at least the crater is in the right place. The whole fuel tank farm and the orbital launch mount are basically untouched. Of course, there is a lot of things to clean up, but it appears though that the logs and methane tank have almost vanished, which also supports the theory about firing the FTS. As we can see, it was really close and there would be nothing left from everyday astronaut's camera. On the other photo we can also spot the Starship leg seen previously on the NASA spaceflight video. Oh yeah, and unfortunately Robodog called Zeus was probably smashed by SN11's nose cone. Rest in pieces. We can conclude that first, flying in bad weather conditions isn't the best idea, though it's possible that if the engines had worked, it would land without a problem. And second, that again, Raptors need a bit of polishing to be reliable. Elon has tweeted that SN15 will roll out to the pad in the next couple of days. It's a new generation prototype that has hundreds of software and hardware changes, including a new generation Raptors. So let's hope that we'll be able to see a proper landing more often. There are a couple more interesting tweets from Elon that are worth showing. Firstly, the next generation after SN15 will be SN20, which doesn't mean that SN15, 16, etc. won't conduct a flight test. Prototype number 20 will be the first orbit-capable Starship fully covered by thermal protection heat tiles, and it will have a stage separation system that will allow it to be stacked on top of the super heavy booster. What's even more interesting is that according to another Elon's tweet, it looks like BN1 will be scrapped without any testing. A few days ago, Elon confirmed that it will conduct a cryo test and a static fire, but it looks like it isn't the plan anymore. Booster number 1 is just a pathfinder to test the production technique, and it appears that the BN2 is so different in design that it's just pointless to test technology that won't be used. We can expect BN to roll out to OLP before the end of April. Elon also hopes that it will be an orbit-capable vehicle. That's all I've got for you in this episode of Starship Updates. If you like this video, then don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!